through the spin and
No, Kayode, I will let you talk. Kayode, I will let you talk if you let me talk. Kayode.
There's a reason why Cautions are tuning in.
500,000 of 630 people listen to Hard Fact.
What they're looking for. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts.
Hello, ladies. Good afternoon. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts. I'm hoping everyone who's listening to me is safe, and I'm hoping that wherever you are, you can to keep your head get into trouble. I'm hoping that all 624,000 of you are keeping. I have a great show for you. As always, we'll start with the big three. Let's talk about the Army's press statement about the Lekki shooting. And they talk about CACOVID and the governor's statements about the warehouses that are full of relief bills. And then let's talk about governors ordering house-to-houses to retrieve looted relief bills. Is this legal? It's 7 minutes past. Today's Wednesday. So at 4, I'll be bringing you the glass seating. Today's glass seating, we're going to talk about the role women played during the EndSARS movement, the roles that they're continuing to play with the EndSARS movement. I'll also talk about the role they've played in the fight against COVID-19. Also about a soldier who was arrested for beating a woman at an ATM in Udi. On today's Big Hard Fact, I've managed to convince Obuforebo to come back, and so we can continue our conversation about police reform. We'll talk about reforming daily police operations. So don't miss that conversation away today at 5 o'clock. You get news up top of every hour. After the news at 6, it's Lagosa. Let's talk. Lagosa comes your way at 16. Let's talk from Voice of America way at 6:30. Streaming live on Facebook. We're also on YouTube, and you can via the phone lines today. Yeah, number is 0700-993-99. Let's get started with today's Big 3.
This is the Big 3 on Hard Facts on 99.3 Area Info.
Has the Army fully responded to Governor Sonwo's statements about the shootings? Why didn't COVID and the state government disclose challenges with relief material for the warehouses became? Are state governments hand search for looted relief materials properly? Those are your big 3. Talk about them. The Army has finally responded to the accusation that they carried out the illegal Lekki Tollgate shootings. That's our first story. Long story short, said it's not them. But let me put the statement for you. The attention of Headquarters 81 Division Nigerian Army has been drawn to a viral video on social media in which it was alleged that civilian protests were massacred by soldiers at Lekki Toll Plaza. This action is untrue, unfounded, and aimed at causing anarchy in the country. At no time did soldiers of the Nigerian Army open fire on any civilian. From the onset of the EndSARS protests, there was no time personnel of 81 Division Nigerian Army were involved. However, the decision to calling the military was taken by the Lagos state government after a 24-hour curfew was used. This was as a result of violence which led to several police stations burnt, policemen killed, persons in police custody released, and weaponed away. The situation was rating into anarchy. It was at this point the state government requested for the military to intervene in order to restore normal. The intervention of the military followed down procedures for internal separations, and all the soldiers acted within the confines of the engagement for internal securities. Finally, Headquarters of the Nigerian Army reiterates in discharge of its responsibilities did not shoot at civilians, as there are glaring and convincing evidence towards this fact. This allegation and work of mischief makers who will stop to tarnish the image of the Nigerian Army. The general public is hereby enjoined to this allegation, as there is no act of truth therein. End of quote. And that statement was by Major Olaniyi Oshoba. He's the Deputy Director, Army Public Relations. To read the statement verbatim so that you for yourself, Army has said. First of all, they did not having a hand in any shooting. Second of all, they're saying that they were not even involved in anything relating to the EndSARS protests. Third, they're saying, well, we got involved, but only after the state government asked us to get involved. And even then, anybody. Now, notice that the Army said they intervened to restore normal. But they didn't give any details about what specific this intervention entailed. What did the Army do to restore normalcy? They didn't say. All they said was they followed the rules of it. Amnesty seems to disagree. A few days ago, they tweeted, quote, Amnesty International has received credible but distress of excessive force occasioning death of protesters at Lekki Tollgate in Lagos. While we continue to investigate the killings, Amnesty International wishes to remind the authorities that international law, security forces may also resort to the use of lethal force, which is unavoidable, to protect against the threat of death or serious, end quote. And today, Amnesty International gone even further. On the website, they page that they call, quote, a timeline of the Lekki Tollgate killing, 20 October 2020. It has a collection of videos and pictures, and they've used time data from the pictures. They've used the angle of the sun in the videos to calculate the time of the day using computer. They've gotten DPS data, and they are quite boldly saying that the army, in their opinion, appears to be responsible. Amnesty International isn't the only global body that is pointing a finger. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has also spoken on. That's what Fatou Bensouda. Now, to explain who she is, she's the person who decides ICC tries a case or not. Decides whether accusations brought to the International Criminal Court have merit. And she had this. She said, quote, my office has been closing the events around the current protests in Nigeria and the reaction of Nigeria's law and security agencies. End of life or injury is concerned. We've received information alleging crime and are keeping a close eye on developments. Case violence escalates and actions arise on that. Roomstar crimes may have been call for calm and restraint. That's what she said. So you have the ICC prosecutor saying she has received allegations of crime, monitoring the situation here. Some observers will tell you, of course, that this puts into perspective something that the Chief of Army Staff and Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai told his commanders. According to Sagia Musa, the general, his commanders, to be afraid of international trials, all their actions have been in line with the law. So it seems like you have all these organizations saying something different from the army. And that includes, don't forget, the Lagos State government. Because you have the army saying two things. They've said the Lagos State government invited them to restore order. And that they did not shoot anybody at the troops. That's what the army is saying. But you have the army saying to press in India and abroad that it appeared the army did the shooting. And he also said on air that he was surprised that the army took action. The curfew had not started that time. So they're clashing. It's going to be very interesting to governor response to the army's statement. We're still waiting for a response from Government House. But that's our first story. What do you think about the army's statement? What do you think about them saying that they were invited by the state government to restore order? What about the comments from Amnesty International and the prosecutor at the International Criminal Court? Get on Facebook, Info 99.3, Twitter, Area Info FM, and of course, you can call the live studio 070-993 993 0700 93 993 993. You can also send us a message. WhatsApp is 080-5975-805. Again, WhatsApp 080-959-75805. So see, there's so many to reach Sandra today on the show. If you can't call, you can WhatsApp. If you can't WhatsApp, you can Facebook. You Facebook, you can tweet. 99.3. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. What's your name?
My name is Kelechi.
Welcome, Kelechi. Go ahead.
Yes, you can see what we are saying. Nobody to accept that he is the one. Governor denied at first time. He's not the one that invited them. Now, military now going to verify that they see the shooting. And you look at the video, they are speaking outside. The military them. All these things, I don't know, my sister. Then this bring that problem of, massacre of destroying police stations, all these Lekki. But then, government, they know what is going on. And they no one say the truth. And that truth they hide is the main problem we have in this country. Concealing the secret. This is concealing the secret. So are you want to, doubt? And this thing tells on the people that our leaders are not, they are not for us. And which is true. This is unknown soldier, according to Fela music. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for calling. We've got Mazi Carlo on the line. Mazi, thanks for calling. Mazi Carlo is not there anymore. 99.3. Hello.
Hello, Sandra.
How are you, sir? What's your name?
We're happy to welcome you back. This is Chooks.
Chooks, welcome. Go
from
ahead.
Isolo. All right, thank you. Even now they are calling it fake news. That all those things are Photoshop. It rained just not quite long, about 30 minutes ago. It rained.
Okay.
Can we be able to count the drop of rain that have dropped? Can anybody be able to count the drop of rain that? No. You put off a light and start shooting there. The governor came out and said no casualty. Later he said 2 or 1. And other people are saying, okay, some claim, let's assume some claim something, some claim that it is or this thing, and you are not calling that one. The one that the governor have said is fake news. Because nobody has attacked, and we learned the carry away. Nobody. So is it not propagation or what? So how come people are coming up now? Some people are their agencies or what calling and saying fake news. Now they have estimated what the protesters have destroyed every time. They are telling us 1 trillion instantly. How did they come up? How did they came to that number? 1 trillion. 1 trillion. You know what is 1 trillion? Do you know what is 1 trillion?
It's a lot of money. Sandra? It's a lot of money.
Yes. Okay. Now instantly, how did they come? How did that amount? How did they come? How did they calculate immediately? Up and they said that one is not fake news. That is not fake news. So it's when it comes from the people, it becomes fake. When they do it, no, we should accept it. But what my own concern is to release a peaceful demonstration. You carry arms. They hold their flag and you ask them. Whether it was one person, whether nobody died, it's a treatable offense. We've lost our sovereignty on that.
That's actually not accurate. It's not true. That news at that time that if you're carrying a flag, won't shoot you was fake. So it's uncomfortable. If you talk to military men, they tell you.
No, when you are not armed,
yes, if you're not armed, yes, shooting on civilian is a crime. Shooting at civilians, that one is a crime. But when you talk about you shot at them, they were carrying flag, that's a treasonable offense. That may be taken into about treason. But what they did was illegal to shoot at unarmed protesters. If it was the army, that was illegal.
Let me give you an example, Sandra. Let me give you all those things have names. Like we share a common boundary with Benin Republic. Do you understand?
Okay.
Now when you get to that Benin Republic, or any border, we have a no man's land. That's a little space between each of those things.
Okay.
And you are being even we watch it on the US, maybe one of these American movies or what. And you are being chased from this country. You run into another. You run across the border and run into another. This thing. Those other countries doesn't have any right to even take their arms and cross your border.
But that's a different thing entirely from what happened at the Lekki Tollgate. Now, the army, of course, is denying that they did it. But if they were the ones who did it, shooting at unarmed civilians is a crime. Whether or not the civilian is carrying a flag, if you shoot at an unarmed civilian, you've committed a crime. Now, treason is only for crimes against the state, not for symbols like the flag or the coat of arms. Those are sentimental positions at best. I wonder if John in Apapa is still on the line. John, are you still there? Yeah, I knew it to be a miracle for John to still be there. 99.3. Hello.
Hello, Sandra. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Very well. My name is Michael Oba.
Welcome,
I'm
Michael.
a Lagosian and a Nigerian.
Welcome.
I'll use common sense to analyze what has happened. I've watched countless videos. I've heard the news. I'm a reasonable person, so I will just be the innocent bystander at the accident of time.
Okay.
I believe there was shooting, and I also believe the shooting wasn't directed at the protesters. I think the army shot into the air. Whatever fatalities we see were the consequences of their action, the pump action happening on the ground. That's what I believe.
Okay.
I also believe that a few people must have died as a result of that consequences. This idea of denying or going back and forth, it will not bring back those people. I also believe that the people saying 15, 20 and whatever number, I think they are as wicked and as evil as the people that did the shooting, because if you cause problem for the country and for people to start behaving based on the consequence of your emotion, and I'm a victim of it because I also tweeted, I'm very active on social media. I took up arms. I called the government bad names and did all that without getting to the bottom of what happened. I don't think that's the Nigeria of our dreams, whether lies cannot equate to however many times you repeat.
Okay, let me ask you a question before you go on, right? I want to establish something. Do you think that anybody should be firing live ammunition in the air or otherwise around innocent people?
I don't think they should, but I live with the military, and I don't want to disclose how. If you don't want any of such to happen, don't bring military to the state. They are not.
So you're saying that the state government was wrong to bring out the military, right?
Correct.
Okay. Michael, thanks for calling us. I have to point out, of course, that at the moment, there's still no consensus about how many people died. The state government says 2. Amnesty International says at least 12. The protesters who survived have said at least 15. So there's no consensus yet about how many people died. Investigations are still ongoing. There's no bottom that has been gotten to yet. So let's keep it at that for now. Francis in Victoria Island, how are you?
I'm fine. Sandra, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. Appreciate you for your good work.
Thank you.
Yes, in my own opinion, or what I want to say this afternoon is the government has not been fair to people of Nigeria. All this propaganda of denying and not denying, it will not do us any good as a people. In the first place, why should the army go to a venue where civilians are protesting and they are not threatening to national security? And all the reports I've gotten from the media reported that the protest has been so peaceful and the people have organized themselves very well. Then at the eve of that Tuesday, why did the state didn't deploy the security to guide the protesters? Then they order the military or whoever. Military deny, the state is denying. It will not do us any good because the youth, they are listening. And the heart of many are still bleeding. So I want the government to try and be honest. The honesty is what will do us good in this country. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Francis, for calling. We'll take a final call from Jeremiah. We'll come to social media. Jeremiah, sorry about that. Thanks for calling. Let's go now to Facebook, where we have quite a lot of comments, right? Now, on Facebook, somebody says, when you people say if you don't want to die, you don't want Nigerians to die, don't bring the military. Are you saying that there is no way for the military to restrain itself and not shoot people? Is the military a wild animal? We've got more comments on Facebook. I'll try and take as many of them as possible. Facebook again is Nigeria Info 99.3. We're streaming live there. Nigeria Info 99.3. Abu Otene says the army has given its own side of the story, thereby shifting some responsibility to the Lagos state government. Unfortunately, no one has been able to tell me the meaning of massacre so that we can situate it with the Lekki incident. Well, Abu, there are dictionaries everywhere, so maybe pick up a dictionary. He also says, I welcome independent, credible investigation by any credible organization, but Amnesty International, because that body for me is very biased in its assessment of incidents regarding Africa. Okay. Adekoya, yeah, but seriously though, Abu, pick up a dictionary. Look up the word massacre. I think that may be able to help you make up your mind. Adekoya Kesman says, Sandra, our government can go house to house to recover looted palliatives, but they cannot go house to house to share the supposed palliatives. Thank God that you saw the Punch cartoon flakes on Twitter. These guys know they shame at all. Please help us tell INEC to open their offices and let's start PVC registration. These guys must leave come 2023. Let's keep the comments coming in. Here's another one from Astia Ase, who says they were invited by the state government to restore order. To begin with, the protest at Lekki was peaceful. So what exactly do they want to restore? And it shows that both Sanwo-Olu, the government and the army are denying, shifting blames and making more contradictions in their statements. What I do want everybody who's listening to remember, of course, is that there are two sides to this story. And on the one side, their story has remained very consistent. What the people who survived have continued to say has not changed. It has remained consistent, constant. It never changed. On the other side, you have the story changing from moment to moment to moment. So maybe that could also help you as you decide what exactly transpired on the 20th of October 2020. Now, our second story is the latest in the COVID-19 relief warehouse wahala. We've had statements from the ICPC, the Governors Forum, CACOVID themselves. So I want us to take a look at the statements, the various statements, and so much more. First of all, the ICPC, the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission. They put out a statement because of all the warehouses being discovered and the looting going on. And what they said partly quotes, in view of the recent looting spree, ICPC will investigate the sources of goods looted from palliative warehouses, the National Emergency Management Agency, and private houses to unravel whether or not the properties looted were personally acquired, the government procured, CACOVID donated, or are empowerment materials which are part of the constituency projects initiatives of the federal government. ICPC will also scale up the monitoring of ministries, departments, and agencies charged with the acquisition and distribution of COVID-19 palliative relief materials and make public its findings in due course, end quote. So what ICPC is saying there is that, first of all, they want to find out who donated the relief materials in those warehouses. Now, this is important because it's going to tell us if keeping those materials there was a crime and whether ICPC can investigate it without being asked. If the materials were from the Presidential Task Force, ICPC can step in and investigate because they're government property. And the ICPC said if the PTF materials should have already been distributed, why are they still in warehouses? Now, if these materials are from CACOVID, then ICPC's jurisdiction is not very clear because CACOVID is a private sector initiative. They donated the materials and they just needed the government's help to share the stuff. So if these goods are from CACOVID, ICPC may need to hear from them before investigating. They would have to hear CACOVID say, why are our materials still in warehouses? Haba. Government was supposed to have shared these materials by now. Haba. And this is a good time to tell you what CACOVID has said. CACOVID is saying that some of the materials in these warehouses are from them. But they say that they have a perfectly good reason why these materials have not been delivered yet. They say it's logistics. They put out a press statement where they said that it's been difficult to buy and distribute all the materials in time. Let me quote their statement for you. I try as much as possible to say what they said verbatim, so you will not say I made up anything. The statement reads, the sheer scale of this nationwide food program and the timing of the orders and deliveries, which coincided with the lockdowns and reduced movement across the country, compelled CACOVID to roll out distribution in a staggered manner. The very large size of the order and the production cycle required to meet the demand caused delays in delivering the food items to the states in an expeditious manner. Hence, the resultant delay in delivery of the food palliatives by the state governors. Now, I'm a journalist. And I covered COVID-19 very well on Hard Facts. I covered it. You know that I covered it. A lot of you started listening to me because I was covering COVID-19. I covered relief materials. Do you remember CACOVID or various state governments ever coming to the public to say that they were having logistics issues with sourcing or sharing the relief materials. Do you remember it? Because in fact, whenever private citizens complained that they were not seeing the palliatives, the message from the state government and CACOVID was always, everything is under control. But now that these warehouses are being discovered, CACOVID and the governors are finally telling us about these logistics problems. I always say secret business go play you secret wayo, because I wonder what would have happened if CACOVID and the governors had told Nigerians months ago that, see, we have money for palliatives, but we're having problems sourcing the palliatives and distributing the palliatives. I wonder whether Nigerians from different walks of life wouldn't have volunteered to assist in some way. Maybe solutions could have even been found. I mean, look at the NSAS protests. These young people, in the space of 2 weeks, came up with so many solutions for problems. They found ways to supply food to all the protesters. They built a system for charging phones. They set up ambulance services. They even set up a helpline. One thing that those protests really showed the world was the ingenuity of young Nigerians. Now imagine if those young people had known that COVID-19 was having, was having problems with the palliatives. Imagine the solutions that they could have brought. Meanwhile, the governors forum gave their own explanation for the stockpiles, and it partially contradicts CACOVID. Partially contradicts them. The governors are saying that they made a conscious decision to stockpile some of these supplies because they were anticipating a second wave of COVID-19. So they're saying that they expected to have a second round of lockdowns, and so they would need palliatives at that time. Now, I spoke to some analysts before I came on air, and those analysts said to me, Sandra, there are 3 problems with this explanation. The first problem is people needed the food in the first lockdown. If people are still starving from the first lockdown, is it now in the second lockdown that you want to give it to them? Does it make sense to be saving food for the second lockdown if people are still starving from the first? That's the first thing that one of the analysts said to me. The second analyst said to me, Sandra, a lot of the donated food is perishable. Does it make sense to stockpile food for a second wave when you don't know how soon that second wave will be and when the food is spoiling? The third analyst said to me, Sandra, why is government assuming that people who donated for the first lockdown will not donate for a second? 0700-993-993-993. We've got Wale in Ogun State on the line. Wale, thanks for calling.
Yeah, well done, Sandra.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. I think my own opinion is such that I don't even want to blame anybody on this COVID palliatives that the people have looted. Because from CACOVID statement, first of all, there was no way they could take the large chunk of food, okay, from the local market or from the regular supply to our market. So what I heard reliably was that they actually went to the companies involved for them to produce. So, of course, that will take time. I am into the manufacturing food processing factories. And I can tell you that production takes time. Okay? Then for government, naturally, our government, generally, we have very slow systems in place to the extent that even when they deliver the food, it will still take them a while for them to be able to distribute. Of course, for the people that then notice that things were here and they've not been given to them, they just latch on the available opportunity to. So I won't be able to blame anybody, because blaming anybody in that circumstance, the circumstance we had was such that we had a mob action in the country. Everything goes. I mean, everything was stolen. everything. You see that one of my own facility far away in Yola, they took the tire, they removed the cabin, they stole everything on the vehicle.
Wow, I'm sorry.
You understand? So it applies to everybody. Everybody lost things. Generally, I mean, except you don't do viable business. That's where you would think that, okay, maybe it won't affect you. But if you are into business or you are employed in any factory or the other, you would have lost something. It was the season in the country. We went haywire. Everything went haywire. Everybody felt on top of the world. You see people wearing police inspector uniform.
So let me understand what you're saying. So you're saying that people lost things during COVID or during the aftermath of the curfew?
No. I'm just saying. I'm talking about the looting now. I'm referring to the looting. I came from the circumstance that led to the food still remaining in the warehouses.
Okay.
And the fact that by the time we got to that junction of that protest, where everybody went haywire, the tension was high. A lot of news were flying around.
But if people, Wale, I think you're jumping the gun here. If there was no food in a warehouse locked away for months, would people have seen the warehouse and looted the warehouse?
Sandra, I will answer you with another question. Why did people go to other warehouses that are privately owned, markets owned privately, and people still went there to loot things?
Hold on. Hold on. I think we're conflicting two things, and I want us to address them one after the other. So fact number one, nobody should have looted anything, period. Looting should not have occurred, period, because that's stealing, and stealing is wrong. It's a crime. 100%. That's number one. 100%. Number two, these palliatives that people discovered in warehouses and started to loot were not supposed to be in warehouses because they were supposed to have already been distributed. Now, government is coming to tell us the reason that these things were in a warehouse. CACOVID is also coming to tell us that there's a reason these things were in a warehouse. Why didn't government speak up and tell the public that they were having difficulties distributing these materials for months until there was unrest in the country and people started seeing the warehouses?
Just my last line, from the information available, Lagos State got their own portion on the 22nd of September. The crisis we had in Lagos started in the beginning of this month.
That's incorrect.
Bureaucracy.
So as far as bureaucracy is concerned, between the 22nd of September and the 20th of October, there was no way the government could have distributed the palliatives?
No, the crisis, the protest that happened, when did it happen? The attention of the nation
protest started on the 12th.
Protest started on the 12th.
On the 12th of October. The Lagos State government got palliatives on the 22nd of September.
That is just barely 20 days. In government circle, I was in Ministry of Water Works before.
Okay.
Before we even signed the papers. So what I'm just saying in essence is this, so I allow other people to come in.
Okay.
Is that I don't want to blame anybody.
Okay.
I just feel like the circumstance, what we went through in the country in the last 30 days thereabouts, led to that looting. It was not deliberate that the CACOVID, of course, they provided the money. So it won't be that. And they have monitors. Don't see, these are private sector guys. They have people monitoring the delivery. Then they will monitor the distribution as well.
Did you hear the part where CACOVID said that they were having logistics problems and that's why they couldn't distribute the thing?
Yes.
Did you also hear the part where the Governors Forum said that they were saving the food for the second wave of COVID?
For me, that was not any because some governors have distributed. Borno State have distributed.
No, but we still have Governors Forum that still said they were the reason the food.
That have distributed.
Sometimes when you want to defend certain things, you go there for front. They wait you.
I'm just saying purely that look, the circumstance that led to the looting and everything. For me, I won't be able to blame anybody. But CACOVID cannot buy anything. With their money, private sector. I belong to the private sector. I can't buy anything with my money and not monitor it. So it's definitely not something that. But some people are thinking that it's being hoarded so that they can sell it off and all that. It's not possible. Not the private sector led
action. It won't happen.
All right, Wale, thank you for calling. I appreciate it. You know, the idea that 20 days is too short a time for government to move these materials tells you all you need to know about efficiency in government, maybe. But let's move on to our final story, huh? You're listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. If you just joined the show, hello. We've talked about the Army's press statement about the Lekki Tollgate shooting. We've also talked about CACOVID's and the Governor's Forum's statements about these warehouses full of relief materials. Now, let's talk about what the different government entities are doing. Different government entities are struggling to retrieve the looted relief materials and to restore public confidence, but it's not going very well. And that's our third story. We're going to start in Kaduna. We saw reports from people in the state that the state government, had sent police and other officials on house-to-house searches for relief materials. At first, some people did not believe it until the governor's Twitter handle confirmed it. That's Nasser El-Rufai. Someone tweeted at El-Rufai, quote, in Kaduna, it's house-to-house operation in search of stolen palliatives by security operatives. Haba El-Rufai, end quote. And the governor's handle on Twitter replied, quote, Kaduna update. We intend to bring each and every one of them to justice. Stealing and destruction of property in the guise of EndSARS will not be tolerated in Kaduna State. Thanks, end quote. Now, of course, the state government has every right to track down people who steal, whether they stole from government or from private individuals or from organizations. If you steal, government should track you down and arrest you. But people are asking about the legality of house-to-house searches. Now, if you're a lawyer, I'd like you to weigh in on this conversation. Because remember, the law in Nigeria stops the police from searching your house without a search warrant. So I've heard people ask, what warrant did the Kaduna state government and the police obtain that lets them search every house in the land, door to door? Lawyers, please call me, tell me. Send me a WhatsApp message if you can't call. Send a message on Facebook. I've never heard of a blanket search warrant for house-to-house searches since we returned to democracy in 1999. And of course, we know that there are no legal grounds for searches without warrants. So if you're a lawyer, is this move legal? Now, I'm not saying that the Kaduna state government should not do its best to find out the people that looted these supplies and recover these supplies. I'm asking whether the strategy they've chosen is legal. Some people have raised another reservation about what Kaduna is doing. This particular objection is about practicality, and I wonder what you think about it. These people are asking, how come the government, which couldn't go house to house to distribute the relief materials in the first place, is suddenly able to go house to house to look for the people who stole them? It's actually a pretty hilarious observation when you think about it. Now, supporters of the government are saying that it's not that simple. They're saying that it's actually easier to go house to house to look for thieves than to share the relief materials because the materials were not meant for every house. Remember, the materials were only for the poorest citizens, right? So the government was meant to be using the social register or some other list of poor citizens to determine where to go. So that creates a couple extra layers of logistics. Well, that's for Kaduna. Let me also tell you what's happening in Adamawa. There, Governor Amadu Fintiri is threatening his own house-to-house search and very stiff penalties. He's given everybody 12 hours to return whatever was stolen. And he said that after the deadline, he will sign an executive order. And under that order, anybody found with stolen goods in their house will have their certificate of occupancy revoked and have their house demolished. Now, I can hear some of you lawyers screaming already. Please call me and tell me what you think or send me a WhatsApp message or Twitter. On the internet, lawyers are shouting that such an executive order would be illegal. And again, they are not saying it is wrong to go after people who stole relief materials. What they are saying is no governor has the right to impose destruction of houses or seizure of houses as a penalty for theft. The punishment for theft are listed in the laws. Every crime has its punishment. It could be jail time, it could be a fine, it could be both. The lawyers are saying no governor or anybody else can randomly assign a new punishment to a crime without enshrining it in law. And they're also saying that even if the punishment is in the law, a governor cannot enforce it without first prosecuting the suspect and without a court finding them guilty, not without trial. And speaking of punishment without trial, a video is circulating online of Air Force personnel beating up civilians for violating curfew in Osun State. And the Air Force has responded, and here's what their official Twitter handle said, quote, alleged flogging of curfew defaulters in Ilesha, Osun State. The attention of the Nigerian Air Force has been drawn to a video showing some personnel flogging, meting out corporal punishment on suspected hoodlums involved in criminal activities during the imposed curfew in Ilesha. We wish to inform the general public that the Nigerian Air Force has identified all the personnel involved in the incident and placed them on close arrest, while investigation to determine their level of culpability has commenced. After that, appropriate disciplinary action will be taken. So a lot of Nigerians are praising the Air Force today. They say they like their swift response to the issue. No denials, no blame game, just a quick acknowledgement and arrest of their suspects. Other Nigerians are asking, is this a sign that the peaceful EndSARS protests worked? Is this a sign that the security agencies and the military branches, or at least some of them, are now on their toes and more willing to address brutality cases when they happen? On the glass ceiling, I'm going to be telling you another brutality case being investigated, this time involving a soldier in the army. But yes, let me go to WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. And then from WhatsApp, I'll come to Twitter and then I'll go to Facebook because I've taken mostly calls in the first half of the show. Again, WhatsApp 080-959-75805. Here's a message from Chike Nakute, who says, CACOVID is being twisted from the forces that be. The handwriting on the wall is that state governments and even federal governments cannot spin this. It's unspinnable. This person says, the Kaduna state government is looking for a statewide unrest. I wonder the searchers, if the searchers will come back alive. Gideon from Ojodu, Lagos says. Another message on WhatsApp. Sandra, is there any report on Ogun State? Do they have a curfew like Lagos? I'm not sure. I'll have to find out for you. I think there was a curfew imposed, but I'm not very sure. Hi, Sandra. What a lame excuse by the governors. Do these people think Nigerians are fools to claim that they didn't distribute the palliatives because they were anticipating a second wave? All the governors that did not distribute the palliatives should not only be impeached, but should be prosecuted and jailed. Dozier also says, regarding the Lekki shooting, every military personnel that was deployed, including whoever deployed them, no matter how high and mighty they are, must face international criminal court and given maximum sentences upon conviction. It is common sense, and until common sense starts being applied in Nigeria, these rotten shenanigans will continue. What an annoying group of people. We've got another message here. Good afternoon, Sandra. My name is Prince from Ibejuleki. As per the Lekki shooting, I would have preferred a non-government independent judicial commission to investigate what actually happened at Lekki Tollgate. The various governments setting up a judicial panel amounts to being a judge in your own case. What surprised me is that 3 major media houses have been fined, but the same government media agencies are still using the same unverified video to lay emphasis on the Lekki shooting. My question now is it only the government that determines fake news? Why is it that the government's inconsistencies is termed update, but the ones from the citizens is called fake news? We've got more messages on WhatsApp. Here's another one from or Lighter from Ajegunle, who says the issue of looting, both CACOVID and governors of the states are not trustworthy. Both parties lied to us, and people had to solve their hunger problem with their hand. Remember, some individuals are aware of packing the food to the warehouses, waiting for another phase of lockdown before sharing the palliatives is the bad decision of governors. House-to-house searching is the worst thing that government can do for now without search warrants. Yet they cannot identify the poor and give all the palliatives and relieve people of hunger. We've got more comments coming in. There's so many comments. It's difficult to keep track, but I'm going to do my best. Kingsley from Ikotun says, from Ilobo, says, they've never said anything like they're having any problems with sharing of palliatives. Sandra, instead of somebody to be fined and penalized for these offenses, all you'll hear is different blame games because there is no consequence for the offenders. Chris Ben in Abulegba says, there's no reasonable reason why governors should hoard palliatives meant for the citizens. The governors should shamefully apologize to Nigerians. They should, for looting items donated by well-meaning individuals to alleviate poverty added to the system by COVID-19. Chris also says their claims of second wave is satanic and shameful. They should stop calling Nigerians who had the opportunity to access the various warehouses to collect what belonged to them looters. The real looters know themselves. I beg Joe. Actually, they are looters. I mean, the Nigerians who went into those stores and stole those items, we're not on the social register. You can't tell me that all those people there had their names in the social register. So for all intents and purposes, those items did not belong to them, and so they stole. There's no difference between those Nigerians and politicians who loot Nigerian funds. There's really no difference, seriously. So let's not support bad things. Good evening, President Sandra. Kennedy from Ikoton. When you steal public fund, it's also a palliative stolen in monetary form. But remember, according to John F. Kennedy, if a free society cannot help people who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. God is watching. Sandra, Chris from Amua Duffing says, have the surviving protesters reduced. Nobody's blaming them for the sensational report, but you all can blame the military for everything. Was the military in Lekki when Oride police was burned down? Were the youths in Lekki keeping the law on the curfew? Chris from Amua Duffing, if a person breaks curfew, you do not go there and open fire. If a person, and besides, the youth in Lekki did not even break curfew. Curfew did not start until 9. Have you remembered? Have you forgotten? The state government, first of all, put the curfew at 4 and then quickly changed it to 9. We've had the governor say that curfew had not even started, that the army wasn't even supposed to go out until 10-11. So, Chris, what are you saying? Huh? What are you saying, my guy? We've got more comments on WhatsApp, but I'm going to take a final one from Michael in Wawa. From Wawa, who says, I'm still expecting the Nigerian army to apologize to all those media houses that they wrote fake news on their reports because they denied then that there was no presence of their men at the Lekki Tollgate that very night. Okay, let's find out what messages you have for us on Facebook. James Currency Uche Azuoma says, house to house to look for collected palliative, Abi. Have they gone house to house to look for Magu, Akbabio, Ganduje, and the rest of the looters of the treasure of this country? We've got Mohammed Omar who says, Governor Sanwo-Olu. Okay, I'm not going to take that comment. Ifeanyi also on Facebook says, who we go believe now? But I know the truth must be told if there's anything the government is doing to bring healing. Ruben Arrow says, the army knew not that the live videos will expose them this much. Like, they look so amateurish in the whole Lekki massacre. Imagine them saying a live video is photoshopped. There's no hiding place for their lies. Little wonder they want to regulate social media. Like, how is that even possible? Henry Bill says, all is fallacy state of mind. I want the government to know that if the time is not taking, this crisis will not end well for everyone involved. Okay, let's go to Twitter. On Twitter, we've got a lot of other comments as well. Here's this one from Temitayo Adeleke Oh no, Temita is talking about something else entirely. But at OTE20 says, Sandra, you're a blessing. Oh, well, this person is just sending praise my way. Thank you, Budget, for sending that my way. We've got Michael Iroha who says, who's talking about Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, so we can't take that here because we're not talking about Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Samuel Michael says, so it was the Nigerian army that opened fire on unarmed protesters? A lot of unanswered questions. Please, let's not hold back in the fight against injustice in our society. Let's take a look at more comments. Joel Ayim says, the military didn't have any right to go and shoot anybody. Just because it was a plan, the government should be held responsible for that shooting and killing in Lekki. We've got Livinus who says, I think the Nigerian government should come out and tell its citizens the truth. We've been living under an umbrella of lies. Okay, let's leave things at that. That's where we wrap up today's Big Three. We're going to bring you our business news at the top of the hour. And then when that's done, we will bring you the glass ceiling. On today's glass ceiling, we've got 3 big stories about women. And you can pick any of the stories and talk about them. So, for instance, I have the story of the army and their role during, well, not the army, a particular soldier in the army who did something that was terrible and got arrested for it. He beat up a woman at an ATM in Oshodi and he was arrested for it. And then we also talked about the role of women in the NSAS protests and, of course, in the global fight against COVID-19. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. Don't go away.
Such a busy place. But here's how I managed to stay in touch with the latest changes, trends, news, economics, and even entertainment.
99.3 Nigeria Info.